Welcome back. And while we wait for a decision on whether Donald Trump violated his gag order in his hush money trial, this Thursday, another critical hearing involving new potential gag order violations by the former president. And joining us now is retired New York State Supreme Court Justice Jill Konviser. She's known Judge Merchan for 15 years. So, Judge, thank you for coming in. It's been almost a week since that initial gag order violation hearing. Still no ruling. You know the man, Judge Merchan. What do you think is holding him up in giving a ruling on that?
Well, I think the defendant's conduct is holding him up. Had there been no additional alleged violations, we probably would have seen a ruling fairly quickly after the hearing last week. But then the new allegations come, and he's going to take his time to make sure he does this right at this point. Hanging over Donald Trump's head are these violations. It's certainly possible where the judge could decide to fine the defendant in contempt and not deal with a penalty until after the trial as well. This is a sideshow. Right, the gag order and the alleged violations take everyone's eye off the ball, which is the trial. And the judge's paramount job here, most important thing, is to make sure both sides get the fair trial that they are entitled to, and to make sure that everything is conducted within the laws of this state and the federal government, for that matter. And so he's going to focus on getting through these witnesses first. It's not as though he's sitting around doing nothing else. Lawyers are filing motions every day on different topics. He's got to deal with that. In terms of the gag order, you'll see it. But now that there are additional possible violations, he's going to go through each one. He's going to go through each one carefully and make sure he gets it right.
What would you do? What do you think is right?
What I think is right is to take your time and get the right answer. I think the allegations are serious. The fact that there are so many doesn't change the fact that there is a gag order in place. Somewhat unusual. We don't have gag orders all the time. They are not meant to generally muzzle someone in a general sense. The defendant has shown he is incapable of following the rules. And so the judge on March 26th, and again amended on April 1st, issued those gag orders. These rules are not in place for Donald Trump. Right. They are in place for everyone. There's historical significance to these rules.
And the point is to also preserve the trial, to make sure there is impartiality, to make sure witnesses aren't intimidated, to make sure the jurors aren't influenced by comments, right? That was the reason this gag order was put in place. I wonder, as an observer and somebody who knows Judge Merchan personally, how do you think he's handled more broadly this trial so far?
I think he's done an excellent job. There has been very few fireworks. The only fireworks that you've seen in the case are because Donald Trump decides to get on a bully pulpit and say things that are at least arguably outside the gag order. Otherwise, it's timely. There aren't huge delays. It's going along as smoothly as possible, which doesn't happen. If there's anything predictable about a criminal trial, it's that it's unpredictable. And here things have gone along quite smoothly, and I think we deserve, Judge Merchan deserves our gratitude in that regard.
This is likely the biggest case that Judge Merchan has had in his life, right? It is also the first of 4 criminal cases against Donald Trump. It may be the only one to go to trial before the election. What kind of gravity does that entail for Judge Merchan? The whole nation is watching what happens in his courtroom.
Well, I think your question answers itself, which is the whole nation is watching. But when you are on the bench and you are in a courtroom, the defendant is the defendant is the defendant, and the people are the people. The rules are always the same. And so he is going to do what he does best. The fact that he probably has to go home at night and hear that we're all talking about him may not be as much fun for him as he would like, but he's going to do his job. He's a straight shooter. He's fair. He's got to make sure the defendant, the whole panoply of rights to which he is entitled that he gets, so to the people. And that's what he's doing. And that's why our system works not just for you or me, but also for Donald Trump.
Well, thank you so much, Judge Jill Konviser. I really appreciate your insights.
Pleasure.
Thank you for being here.